Hey guys, it's I'm Burn Poketurd. So lately I've been watching old Pokemon League video basically. And also I got a minute into the video. I also a big good idea to do a type of reaction type video to the story of behind Pokemon Stars and stuff. So let's just get this started. You don't do reaction video on this channel, but yeah.
Pokemon Stars, the long-awaited third version follow-up to Pokemon Sun and Moon. Loads of potential and rumors galore, and we did not get this game. I'm not saying that this would have been the game we needed, but I remember this being the #1 thing on everyone's minds at the beginning of 2017. Though nowadays, if you look up Pokemon Stars on YouTube, you won't find any of the speculation that once dominated the site and will instead find any other star-related Pokemon topics that have since been released. So let's take a look back on the weird history of the game that most of us were convinced was actually coming. This is the story of Pokemon Stars. As I've been discussing the era of Pokemon in 2016, leading up to the release of Pokemon Sun and Moon, it's clear that leaks and rumors were at the forefront of the conversation, or at least were second to any official information that was announced. Most of the year went as you would expect, building up to Generation 7, and as we drew closer to the release date of November 18th, things were starting to wind down a bit. But on October 20th, a little less than a month before that, Nintendo dropped a trailer showing the first look at the Nintendo Switch, a brand new hybrid home and handheld console. While Nintendo would later try to ensure us that the 3DS would continue to be supported alongside the Switch, at least for as long as they could, it was clear that this would be the console for every future video game. The first look trailer promised Zelda, Mario, and Splatoon would all be getting new entries, but that left us wondering about Pokemon. After all, we had barely even started Generation 7 and now a brand new console had been revealed and set to release in 5 months' time. How soon would it be before Game Freak also made their migration to the Switch? Normally, we would just have to wait for the answer to be revealed, but that didn't stop the rumors. As I've mentioned, Pokemon Sun and Moon had some of the most elaborate fake leaks and some of the most insane true leaks. Everything was on the table, and so lots of media outlets and content creators covered the leaks, whether they were true or not, oftentimes even operating under the assumption that they were very likely. The big rumor was that a follow-up to Pokemon Sun and Moon would be released on the Nintendo Switch. Whether this be Pokemon Sun and Moon 2, Pokemon Eclipse, or whatever, the name that ended up sticking was Pokemon Stars, as introduced as the codename for what Eurogamer claimed they had been informed by multiple sources. But yes, that was the persisting rumor from the end of 2016 leading into 2017. Pokemon Stars would be something like a definitive version of Pokemon Sun and Moon. Though when we eventually played through these games and discovered how the story played out, as well as other Pokemon hiding in the post-game, the narrative shifted a bit. For one thing, Lily as well as her family ended up playing a pretty big role in the story. All of them had their own arcs and go through some development by the end of the game. There are even some loose ends left. While Lusamine is defeated and redeemed, she's never seen again, stated to still be recovering. At which point, Lily departs for Kanto in search of her own adventures. In the post-game, we also meet Looker and Annabelle, who are investigating the Ultra Beast when we stumble across the legendary Pokemon Necrozma. The hints present in Necrozma's visual design were pretty intriguing, as it resembles the Z crystals, potentially having a connection to the stars. Thematically, it would complete the trio of Sun, Moon, and Stars along with Solgaleo and Lunala. There was even a crack theory that Necrozma could have some sort of dragon transformation, but like, that can't possibly be true, can it? The point is that looking at all of this combined, it felt as if a third definitive version of Pokemon Sun and Moon just simply wouldn't be enough. What if the rumored Pokemon Stars on the Nintendo Switch was more of a sequel? It would give Nintendo Switch users a Pokemon experience readily available on the console, and could also convert Pokemon fans who wanted to see the story followed through with. And as the narrative for what the game would be changed, so did the rumors and fake leaks. Oh, also there was like a little promotion for some Japanese products featuring Pokemon looking up at the constellations and the stars, and that stirred the pot for even more speculation. But for the most part, I don't think there was anything too substantial that happened during this time, aside from the ongoing discussion of, yeah, that's totally gonna happen. Content creators who didn't actively cover Pokemon leaks even used Pokemon Stars as a hypothetical framing device in order to create wish lists or their own predictions, but that was about it. A good amount of fake leaks were much quicker to be debunked, though eventually we would receive word of an upcoming Pokemon Direct on June 6th, but just before that, we would get a pretty convincing fake leak. This showed concept art of Gladion grown up as he had taken over the Aether Foundation in the sequel that would be Pokemon Stars. You'll notice that this is presented very similarly to the Sun and Moon starter evolution concept art, and that's because those leaks ended up being real. So a lot of future fakes or artistic exercises would copy the same format. Slapping that little confidential stamp on the bottom will do it. There was also an image that appeared to show game footage running on the Nintendo Switch using this Gladion design as well. But of course, once the Pokemon Direct revealed that the next games would be Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon on the Nintendo 3DS, it was all debunked and the momentum for Pokemon Stars grinded to a halt. Also, it turns out that the art was drawn by well-known artist ND, who's still creating. But man, there was a lot of negative reactions to Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon, a game being released on the Nintendo 3DS the same year as the Nintendo Switch was being released, and big Nintendo games had made their debut on the console didn't sit right with a lot of people. Granted, things like Zelda, Splatoon, and Mario were going to be on home consoles anyway, so it made more sense for them to be developed on the Switch further in advance. And the Ultra games were made on the same engine as base Sun and Moon anyway. After a wild night on Twitter, things cooled off a bit. You know, at least until Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee in 2018, which might as well be its own dang video. As much as I wanted Pokemon Stars to actually happen, I never really bought into the idea of it being on Nintendo Switch. After playing Sun and Moon and based on previous patterns of the franchise, it was expected that there would be some kind of follow-up game built in the same engine. But basically porting Sun and Moon onto the Switch was pretty far-fetched. For one thing, the amount of features available on the bottom screen of the 3DS, there would be a significant amount of reworking that needs to be done. I mean, Pokemon games would eventually go back to having everything on a single screen, but there was a lot of time put into all the features on the 3DS's touchscreen that would have to be changed completely to get Sun and Moon functioning on the Switch. Also, looking back with foresight, knowing the current debate about the graphical fidelity of modern Pokemon games, would we have really wanted a 3DS game on the Switch? But that's just the functional aspect of Pokemon Stars being on Switch. When it comes to the concept of the game being more of a sequel rather than an alternate retelling, I personally have some mixed feelings about Ultra Sun and Moon. I really love the added features and story that played out with the Ultra Recon Squad and Ultra Necrozma, but that couldn't have been something additional that happens after the events of Sun and Moon without having to rewrite them. The point is that nobody could have predicted Ultra Sun and Moon as they were, and it probably would have made a lot more sense to just make a third alternate version with some extra stuff in the post-game, or a full-on sequel. Looking back on things, Pokemon Stars is kind of the beginning of the end when it came to the insane leak and rumor season of Generation 7. Amidst elaborate fakes and some of the biggest real leaks we had seen up until that point, Pokemon Stars was much more of a collectively agreed upon fanfiction wish list that never came true. With everything that happened from 2016 to 2017, literally anything felt possible when it came to Pokemon and Nintendo. But maybe, just maybe, expectations were a little too high. So let me know what you think. Do you have any memories about Pokemon Stars? Do you have any big dreams? Me, well, I'd rather not talk too much about that time period. There are some things better left buried in the past. Besides, the future is all written in the stars.
But yeah, make sure to check out the original shout out down below. Be aware to say on my Pokemon channel. But yeah, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you guys in another video. Peace.